Give us free. Give us free.
Your Honor, please instruct the defendant that he cannot disrupt these proceedings with such outbursts.
Give us free. Give us free.
If we are to have any semblance of order in this country,
Give us free.
Peace, unity, and welcome my conscious and unconscious family and friends. This is the all-new BlackVillage Community Podcast, and I am truly your host of the show, JC, aka Afro Black, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut, without any fear, as I use my mic as a spear to chucker you with liberated truth. I am your host and your native soldier in the struggle. My purpose and mission for this show is first to enlighten, inform, and engage. And I want to engage with all who claim to know the truth. All truth seekers and my native family, I welcome you. This show is dedicated to all our indigenous native ancestors and to all those who've carried the mantle of truth, and to every person with the ability to throw off the chains of comfortable habit and unwarranted assumption and move in a new, liberated direction that is guided by truth and observational evidence, no matter where that direction may lead you. My main objective and purpose here is freedom, mind, soul, and spirit. That being said, welcome to the BlackVillage Community Podcast, and much love from our great universal goddess and mother of all, living here and above.
AC in the house.
Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. You never find a white Aborigine. Rather, Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are Aborigines, but you don't like to be called an Aborigine. You want to be called an American.
You go to a reservation, you see poverty, you see churches, and you see liquor stores. When you go to any hood, you see poverty, you see churches, and you see liquor stores. So what make you think you're not on a reservation? Right? So all these achievements that we ascribe to African Americans, these are achievements by Native Americans who had to take on the identity of being African American because they was hanging us.
This means, in the case of an American Negro, it comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you, that the Indians were you. That the Indians were you. That the Indians.
But you think they was hanging people because they was Africans. Africans just want to go home. Nigga from here want to take his shit over. But you think they was hanging people because they was Africans. Africans just want to go home. Nigga from here want to take his shit over, want to take his shit over.
Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. The rock was landed on us. The rock was landed on us. The rock was landed on us.
Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people. Aboriginal means the original inhabitant of a land from the early
earliest times. The ancient mound builders have built and designed the pyramids right here, not just by the Nile, contrary to popular belief and denial. Pyramids and huge hieroglyphics and pictographs on the ground are all mounds found around the Americas, North, Central, and South, even Venus and Mars. That is documented fact that emanates from my mouth. So who exactly were these Aboriginals here, whose ancient evidence of residency is hesitantly mentioned in this hemisphere? Were they the stereotypical Native American so-called Red Indians? Well then, let's be clear, ask any of their tribes if they're sincere. They'll tell ya, those mounds predate the origins. Our past was erased and replaced with lies. Our achievements and identity plagiarized. We got amnesia of who we are, but we go way back further than the seats in your car.
Aboriginal people, 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 Aboriginal people.
This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure.
Hey, people, I am here today, my people, doing nothing but, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut here on the BlackVillage Community Podcast. And I am here today to enjoy myself, to verberate and to communicate and to share. That's what I do. That's what I love to do, people. I am here. I am here with my people today to do what I love to do the most. And I am the host with the most, and I am JC, AKR for Black, and I am here with you on the live session on the air of the BlackVillage Community Podcast. And anybody tuning in today, this is a continuation of last week's podcast session. Last week's podcast section is, and today is, and I quote, culture vultures. Who are the original American Aborigines today? Again, culture vultures. Part 2. Who are the original American Aborigines today? And so today's podcast subject and topic and session is a continuation from last week's, and I will continue this thing, you feel me, getting it going. I'm a little late getting my podcast going today. You know, I had some things I had to work on, but I got it going, and I'm here today, people, to do what I love to do best, you feel me? And that's share nothing but the raw and uncut, indigenous Aboriginal awareness and historical truth, you feel me? And so let me play what I like to play, you know, give us something laid back to, you feel me? Let me do this here. Let me do that right there and turn that off right there, and you feel me? Okay. You feel me? So there we go there. We got the Tupac in the backdrop. What I like to do the best, you know. That's why I love my boy Pac. You feel me? And so today's podcast subject is a continuation of last week's podcast subject. Last week I was talking about, and I was focusing a little bit on the Aborigines of Australia, using them as an example of what's going on with indigenous people, you feel me, and how, you know, these reptilians over here have played the political game, have played with history, have omitted and have altered history and have changed things and have left things, especially when it comes to the school system, especially when it comes to teaching our children. This is why it should be our responsibility to teach our children the truth of when it comes to history as parents. You feel me? As a father, it's my responsibility to make sure my children know the truth, at least about our cultural history. You feel me? You may not can give your kids, you know, all of history in a correct fashion. But when it comes to your own family, when it comes to your own ethnicity, when it comes to your own tribal affiliation, this is where it's our responsibility as parents to teach our children the truth and not allow the system, not allow reptilian white people to teach our children about our own cultural past. You feel me? And this is where, when it comes to talking about what happened last week. Last week, I was sharing some audio casts with my people. I was sharing some audio casts with you guys. Matter of fact, to give you a little, you know, anybody who didn't tune in last week, anybody who might not be familiar of what I'm talking about, you know, let me give you an update. Let me give you a piece of what I shared last week. Like I said, over in Australia, okay, the difference between Australia and what's going on here in America, not just the fact that we own two different land masses, we own two different, continents, but Australia's not a continent, but we own two different land masses and two different homelands, but also the fact that the people in Australia, I'm talking about the original Aborigines of Australia. Anybody who knows anything about an Aborigine, anybody who has any, you don't even have to know the history of the Aborigines. You don't even have to know the culture of the Aborigines to know what an Aborigine look like. And I'm going to tell you right now, anybody with any common sense or any sense of history or any sense of culture knows that an Aborigine don't look like a white person. Anybody knows that an Australian Aborigine don't look like a European. They don't look alike. That's like night and day. But you got these white reptilians in Australia they're not trying, they are claiming to be Aborigine. They playing the culture vulture game in Australia, people, and this is what I was talking about last week. And I want to, I'm talking about it in a continuation in a part two. The reason why is because this is what these devils have done to us over here. They've done us worse, though, because at least the Aborigines of Australia know who they are. They know that the white devils are playing culture vultures. Guaranteed if I was in Australia right now talking to a group of Aborigines, I would get a crowd of them because they would all agree with me that them white devils are playing culture vultures. They're basically stealing their culture, stealing their Aboriginal identity, trying to make it a part of who they are. That's what these devils want to do. They're like cancers. They want to absorb your culture, absorb your identity, absorb who you are, and make it their own. Raw and uncut. Now, since they cannot do totally over there what they've done to us, because the Aborigines have been very strong, a strong people when it comes to their culture. They've been very much a very strong people and a very much of an influential people over their own people when it comes to their culture and identity. You feel me? And so what I'm saying is that what was done to us worse over here is due to the fact that the way they have pressured our people to assimilate, the way they have raped and controlled our people to assimilate over here, okay? They somewhat went through the same thing over there, but not exactly the same. The process over here was much longer as far as assimilation, as far as the mind game, the assimilation mind game to convert. Convert to what? To a European way of living, to a European way of thinking and talking, to the language I'm speaking right now is a what? A reptilian language. It's a European language. It's a white man's bastardized language. I said a white man's bastardized language because all he did was take other languages to create this language. So my point being is that did not exactly happen to them over there. Now, of course, they were over there forced to accept European education. They were over here forced, but yet they still knew their language. They had a strong connection to their country, a strong connection to their culture, a strong connection. The Aborigines were, of course, they were not as vast and large as we are over here in America. We had over 700 tribes and nations and affiliations over here. Where over there in Australia, the Aborigines, even though they had a number of tribes, those tribes were much closely related and connected. So they were able to hold their culture, their oral traditions together, which was very influential over their children. Even though a lot of their children have assimilated, they still have not forgotten who they are. This is the reason why it's very hard and difficult for them to play this mind game in Australia, that they know that the white people know that their alien brothers and sisters have played in America and in other countries. It's much harder for them to do this in Australia, but they're doing it. They're trying to play the culture vulture game. These white devils. Look, let me just let you hear a little bit of, if anybody missed what was going on last week. Let me let you hear a little bit. I'm going to play a little bit of this right quick, and I shall return.
What I'm saying is that we shouldn't be judging each other by colour. We judge each other by our Aboriginality, our ancestry, our relationship to each other.
As visually black people are discriminated against because we're black. I mean, I've had to forego that many jobs because of my skin.
Yeah, but
Not
I get it too.
because I'm Aboriginal, but I'm black.
Yeah, but
I'm
I get it
offensive
too.
to look at.
But I also been denied a job because I didn't look black. So I understand that there is discrimination for those that look black.
But you don't understand what he said.
Oh, I completely. I don't get it.
I have drove down the street at Redfern in a car as well, going to work, and being pulled up and my car searched. Now, have you ever had that done?
No, and I can completely agree.
Why
That's because
haven't you
I
had
don't look
that
dark.
done?
But I also get what people consider reverse racism, but it's still racism. Just because I don't look black doesn't mean I'm not Aboriginal. Doesn't mean that I've grown up that way, and it doesn't mean that I can't be proud of who I am. Just because I don't have skin colour makes me no different to any of you that have colour. My family is my family. My community is my community. We all know that. But just because I'm white doesn't mean...
Let's get a comment from Best Price.
There you go, people. You heard it. You heard it. You heard it. You heard it. Yeah. Unless you're deaf, you heard. Okay. This is what the person who said just because I have no color doesn't mean that I'm not Aboriginal. That's a white girl. So this is a white girl. She has white skin, stringy, straight, brunette, stringy white European hair, European white lips, European white skin. She European features. What cracked me up is when the white devil wants to use phenotype, because the motherfucker will have a PhD, doctor's degree above his name. Everybody pays attention because, well, you know, he's a specialist in that field. You know, he knows. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Every university of academics, so-called academic profession or college university in America and across this world, founded by Europeans, is done according to European ideology, European perception, European way of thinking. Baseless, raw and uncut. You feel me? Baseless. These motherfuckers have no history. They have no culture, no true identity. And this is the reason why they rip everybody else off of theirs and try to make it theirs. They've done it here in America. You got $5 Indians here in America claiming indigenous affiliation. And the Native American, who is related to the European, has embraced the reptilian as a family member. We'll fight for him and die for him. We'll talk the same white supremacist rhetoric that comes out of his mouth. Same thing with the Latino community. The Latino community, which is and has been a two-edged sword, European two-edged sword right in that community. A two-edged sword right in the Latino community. Every Latino community, they turn around and fight for the white devil. They turn around and say they hate the white devil. Every Latino and every urban community, they claim that they hate the white man. There's a family member in that same Latino community, a family member in that same Latino family that would kiss the white man's boots and kiss the white man's ass. Two-edged sword in the Latino community. They need to wake the fuck up. Latinos need to wake the fuck up and realize that we are the same family. We are the same brothers. The only difference is that I'm more closely related to indigenous people as an indigenous Aborigine, whereas a Latino, he has European blood in him. I ain't got no European blood. Crack me up with these white devils. They want to try to tell the indigenous Aborigine, which is the AKA so-called African American, they want to tell the original, the true face of America, the true face of the indigenous American, that he has some European blood. They crack me up, but they want to tell so-called black people that they got how you know you ain't got no white? Because I know my grandmama ain't fucked no fucking white man. That's how I know. How do I know? Because I hugged my grandmama. I lived with my grandmother. I knew my grandfather, and there was no Europeans around in my family. No reptilians unless they were a popo knocking on my door. Cracking me up how they want to try to seep themselves into everybody's family. They're like fucking cancers, raw and uncut. I know I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose some people on this one today. I don't give a damn. Really, I don't. When it comes to my culture, when it comes to my identity, when it comes to my family, when it comes to my homeland, I don't give a fuck if I lose a few. Because I'm going to gain more than lose, raw and uncut. It's time for so-called black Americans to wake up. It's time for so-called, I'm not talking about Barack Obama hybrid mulatto motherfuckers. I'm not talking about y'all. Y'all sit back and learn something, okay? I'm talking about people like me. Like me. Those of us who are like me, who know their mother is considered under this confused, fucked up system a Negro. Grandmother under this confused, fucked up system in America called a Negro. Your great-grandmother and your great-grandmother and your great-great-grandmother and your grandfather and your great-grandfather are all considered Negroes. Now these reptilians have changed the birth certificates in America. Now in the birth certificates, you don't see your mother and your father's identity. You don't see the artificial construct on these new birth certificates. These reptilians are moving fast. These reptilians are moving. They're moving like the reptilians that they are, like sneaky reptilians, making political decisions without allowing the so-called black American populace to vote on it, making decisions and not allowing us to have our decision or choice in the matter. They're trying to move fast, these reptilian snakes. And I don't even like comparing them to snakes because, I don't want to degrade the snake in that way, but it's the raw and uncut truth. It's time for us to wake up, people. It's time for the so-called artificial construct of black American, so-called artificial construct of African American to wake up and stop allowing the system to dictate your identity. Stop allowing the system to dictate your mindset. Stop allowing the system to dictate your culture and your history. Speak to your grandparents and your great-grandparents and your great-uncles and your great-aunts and listen to what they have to say. Listen to the oral stories and the oral traditions in your families. Stop dismissing it. Raw and uncut just like that. I'm JCAK Afro Black going to give you the raw and uncut. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm not going to do the white thing that you want me to do. I'm not going to do the white thing. No, not the white thing. I'm going to do the right thing, but not the white thing. I'm not going to do the white thing for you. No. So you heard that. You heard that, white girl. And they doing this now. And what's funny is they doing this on the late freight because they did this over here a long time ago. What they doing over there in Australia, which is not going to work, is not going to work. No, it's not going to work. The Aborigines know who are Aboriginal. The Aborigines of Australia know who are, and they know who are hybrids. That the white hybrids, the $5 Aborigines in Australia, which is the white Aborigine with a grandparent, one. I was just having this conversation on Facebook just recently. Okay, well, the brother said, well, if they got a grandparent, you can't dispute, if that's a relative. Look. My daddy ain't white. My granddaddy ain't white, which is my daddy's daddy. He's also considered a Negro. My mother ain't mixed. My daddy ain't mixed. My granddaddy wasn't a hybrid. My grandmother is not a hybrid. What is a hybrid? A mixed motherfucker who don't even know who they are. My grandmother is 85 years old, full-blood Cherokee, still dressed like an Indian, still wear her moccasins, still wear her hairband, still dressed like an indigenous clan mother that she is. This is what the white devil wants to go away. This motherfucker is corrupt with assimilation. He's corrupted with assimilation and wants us all to assimilate. Assimilate to what? Go look up the word if you don't know what the word assimilate means. Go look up. Man, you know what? Let me get down to some information, okay? Let me share something with my community instead of me just doing all this preaching at you. Because I know somebody saying, all you doing is just talking. Let me give you some information. Colonialism and genocide in America. Check this out. Let me read this to you. From the colonial period of the early 1500s through the 20th century, the indigenous people of the Americas has experienced massacres, tortures, terror, sexual abuse, systematic military occupation, removal of indigenous people from their ancestral territories, forced removal of Native American children to military-like boarding schools, allotment and a policy of termination. Historians and scholars whose work has examined this history in the contents of genocide have included historians David Standard, the anthropological demographer Russell Thornton, as well as the scholar activists such as Vine Deloria Jr. and Russell Means, Ward Churchill, and Standard compares the events of the colonialization in the Americas with the definition of genocide. Now, the question is, what is genocide? Because propaganda in this country have sold genocide off as physical destruction. Most people believe, most people think, most people got this idea that genocide means physical destruction. That is not true. That is not what the word was coined. And the person who coined the term, the person who created the term, was a man named Raphael Lemkin in 1944. Prior to 1944, the term genocide did not exist. Prior to 1944, the word genocide did not exist. Let me give it to you. The word genocide. Genocide of indigenous people is the mass destruction of entire communities of indigenous people. Indigenous peoples are understood to be people whose historical and current territory has become occupied by colonial expansion or the formation of a state by a dominant group such as colonial power. That's what genocide is. Basically, a group of people coming in and taking over. That's what genocide is. Another people coming in and taking over another people. I just read it to you. Let me continue. While the concept of genocide was formulated by Raphael Lemkin in the 20th century, the earlier expansion of various European colonial powers such as the Spanish and the British empires and the subsequent establishment of the colonies of the indigenous territories, aka reservations, frequently involved acts of genocidal violence against the indigenous groups in the Americas. Meaning what? I just read it to you. The torture, the rape, the mayhem, the total destruction of indigenous communities. That's genocide. Now, that has happened here. As a result, you got people today, so-called AKA Black Americans, who don't know who they are. That is the example. That is a face value of what genocide is. When you don't know who what your ancestors were, are, and what they did in the history. You feel me? That is genocide. Now I want you to know, what I just read to you is the United Nations concept of genocide. And the United Nations, many of the countries that are a part of the United Nations believe that genocide was done to us, the AKA so-called Black American. The Black American is the true indigenous American. No, we're not Native Americans. No, the Native American, know who the Native American is. The Native American is the one who the white man made them last reservational deals with. Because our people, they broke those deals with. Our people who they made contracts with and peace treaties with, the original indigenous Aboriginal American, they broke those treaties, infiltrated those reservations, and enslaved those peoples, or they scattered them. If they didn't enslave them, because after 1865, slavery was so-called over, even though slavery still persisted in many parts of the South. That's what cracks me up, how a lot of historians ignore that. How a lot of historians ignore the fact that even after so-called 1865, after the so-called political game of the Emancipation Proclamation, even though slavery was actually supposed to be abolished by the 13th Amendment, which was actually before the 14th Amendment, slavery still continued after 1865 in the South, in many parts of the South, and many people and historians know this. But do they talk about it? No. Constantly, the white man is constantly pacifying his brother. That's why I say the political system in this country is a joke. You want to know who we are? You want to know who are the original Aboriginal Americans? Go look up and research genocide. Because most people think that genocide means death. Most people are led to accept the idea that genocide means. Come on, the person who loves to use that, who loves to talk about that word, who loves to constantly elaborate on that word, who believes that word should be pasted on every Jewish head on the planet is the Jew. Well, Raphael Lemkin was a Jew who coined the term. But when you go look up the definition of the word genocide, does it really apply to them? Does it really apply to Jews? Because they're living in Israel in a occupied land that was originally occupied by Palestinians and was given to them back in 1942 by Europeans who took that space and gave it to these so-called biblical people. You feel me? So the question is, did they really go through genocide? Because the term genocide, I just read it to you. Again, it says genocide of indigenous peoples is the mass destruction of entire communities of indigenous peoples. It didn't say the people, it said communities. Again, genocide of indigenous people is the mass destruction of entire communities of indigenous people. Indigenous peoples are understood to be whose historical and current history has become occupied. Listen to me. Did you hear it? Indigenous people are understood to be people whose historical and current history has become occupied by colonial expansion. Did you hear that? Indigenous people are understood to be people whose historical and current territory has become occupied by colonial expansion or the formation of a state by a dominant group such as colonial power. So if you actually detail exactly what I just read, this has only happened to us. That's why you got so many books. These white devils have written so many books about the Mongoloid Indian. These white devils have focused their attention. Why? Why did they focus their attention? That's a political maneuver. It's a political maneuver to continue to the mind assimilation, the psychological assimilation of the people, to rid them of their identity, to rid them of the knowledge of their identity, to rid them of their awareness of their identity. That's what these cancerous reptilians have done. By them coming in, look what it says. It says the indigenous peoples are understood to be people whose historical and current territory, whose historical and current territory has become occupied. Historical and territorial. That means they take your history. They put themselves in your history. This is what the word genocide meant under indigenous genocide. Under the genocide of indigenous people. That's what the word genocide means. Go look up the word genocide of indigenous people. Go look it up. It doesn't just mean to torture the people and to kill the people and to rape the people. It also means to take their history and their territory and to make it their own. That's what I just read to you, people. It says the indigenous people are understood to be people whose historical and current territories has become occupied by colonial expansion or the formation of a state by a dominant group such as colonial powers. Let me continue to read. The first being, now let's check this out. Check this out. When Raphael Lemkin coined the term genocide, he broke it up into two parts. Check out what he did. It says, genocide, violence against indigenous peoples in Americas, Australia, Africa, and according to Lemkin, colonization was in itself instinctively genocidal. He saw this genocide as a two-stage process. The first being the destruction of the indigenous population way of life. Did you hear that? Not the people. Yeah, this again. Raphael Lemkin, who coined the term genocide in 1944, he saw it as a two-stage process. Let me read it again. He saw this genocide as a two-stage process. The first being the destruction of the indigenous population way of life. In the second stage, the newcomers imposed their way of life on the indigenous group. According, did you hear that? He says first what they do is they come in and they destroy the indigenous population's way of life. Now, if they destroy, that means it don't exist no more. And if it doesn't exist no more, then what are we seeing on these reservations? Is it really the indigenous Aboriginal people? Or are them Native Americans as they call themselves? Because Native Americans are Mongoloid Indians that traveled over the Bering Strait 12,000 years ago and settled over here with the people that were already here. Because those people who were already here prior to Mongoloids coming here were the copper-colored people of America, aka now called Black Americans, then called by the Spaniards Americanos. Negros Americanos. That's what the Spanish called the people that Hernando de Soto, Hernando Pisco, Giovanni Verasani. When they came over here in the 1500s and they saw the indigenous people, they called them Americanos. They called them Negros Americanos, or Americanos Negros, meaning Black Americans. The people I see on these reservations today do not look like Negros Americanos. The face of these people on these reservations today look nothing like the pictures of indigenous people that I've seen in the 1800s. I got photos in the Black Village on Google. Anybody want to go check it out? Go to Google, the Black Village on Google. I got many photos, pictures of indigenous people from the 1800s. And what you see, you don't see on the reservation. They look nothing like they look more like members of my family, the people who they call Negroes. What happened? What happened? Where did they go? Huh? I'm led to believe that those Indians, or those so-called Indians on those reservations, decided to have babies with white Europeans, despite the fact that them Europeans raped, killed, murdered, tortured their family members. Look, let me not get off the subject, people. I got another audio cast I want to play. Check out this audio cast right here. I want you to hear this. This is very important. And this is about the fact that, like I say, culture vultures. You feel me? The people who've come over here and did what they did over here, it's just the same people who are doing what they're doing in Australia today. Culture vultures, people. You feel me? They're not out for the best benefit of the people. They're not out to benefit the people in any way. They're out to replace the people. It's all about assimilation. It's all about colonial. That ideology, that concept, that agenda has not changed. Has not changed, people. So let you finish checking out what's going on in Australia, okay? And I find it interesting and very intriguing. I'm gonna tell you why. The reason why I find it very interesting and intriguing is the fact that what's going on in Australia has already happened over here. What's going on in Australia has already happened over here in America, but it ain't gonna happen that well in Australia. The reason why is because those people in Australia have a stronger hold on their culture, a stronger hold on their identity. They've taught it to their children. You feel me? They have a stronger hold on who they are. And not only that, at least here in America, and if I know that I can see what's going on from here in America, I know people around the world can see what's going on, because everybody know that the face of Australia, the indigenous face of Australia, is not a white face with blue eyes and blonde hair. I'm sorry, reptilians, that ain't gonna work. I'm sorry, reptilians, the Jedi mind thing don't work. That don't work. It's too late now. What y'all trying to do in Australia, that's on the late freight. Just give them people what you owe them and let those people in Australia self-identify. Let them self-identify. Because it's easy to prove who an Australian Aborigine is. Because an Australian Aborigine is somebody who has all Aboriginal family members. Not somebody who has one grandparent who married a European white man and everybody else after that is all white. And then you want to say you're an Aborigine. I don't think so. No, you're not. You're a hybrid. No, you're not. You are a hybrid. No, you're not. You're not an Aborigine. You're not. No, you're not. So, on that note, people, let me go on to the next culture vultures that I want to talk about. Again, the Pan-African agents out there. Okay? But before I go into the Pan-African agents again, I want to play some more of what's the town hall meeting that happened in Australia, okay, where the Aborigines and all these guys came together and they were talking about who are the Aborigines. Because this is a question that's being raised, and it's funny that it's a question that's being raised in Australia, of all places. Of all places, who is Aborigine? Why is that even a question being raised? Everybody know who the Aborigines of Australia are, and they don't have blue eyes. They don't burn under the sun. And they don't have blonde hair. No, I'm sorry. No. They don't have white features. No, their phenotype don't look like Europeans. No. So, let me play this next audio, and I shall return, my people.
I think the conversation's getting out of control here a bit, and you've got to ask yourself why Aboriginal people have to conform and comply to a definition of their being. It's something. Hang on. It's something that has been imposed on Aboriginal people right from the time of European occupation. And Mark hit it on the head before. People in powerful positions, such as shock jocks and people in media, they tend to have a field day trying to divide and rule Aboriginal people. That is, on the one hand, people that are what they regard as the real Aboriginal people, and people on the other side of the coin that are, not dark, not noticeably Aboriginal. This is what we've got to stop. We cannot afford to get sucked in to this fighting amongst ourselves.
Simple solution. Let anyone identify any way they want. Yep. What I do question is how benefits are handed out. So
exactly.
You can say, I know in my heart I'm Aboriginal, etc., etc., but when it comes to handing out benefits and services, it should be done on need. Now, also,
the benefits are too
let me finish, please.
Small.
Let me finish, please. I get a lot of emails. People ask me this question all the time. Why is it that some people who claim Aboriginality, they focus on 1/16 of their ancestry and they forget the other 15/16 of their ancestry? I am a part Aboriginal person. I'm part European, part Aboriginal, very proud of both ancestries. I have an Aboriginal father, an Aboriginal mother. My life does not begin and end with my Aboriginality.
There you go. Now, that was a hybrid talking. That was a hybrid. And at least he was honest. At least he was honest. He said he's half Aboriginal and he's half European. And he said, you know what, let people identify however they want to identify, but let the money go where it's needed. He said there's black children who need money. There's black kids. What? He said black. He's talking about the original Aborigines. Why am I talking about this? What does this have to do with us? I can easily tell you, people. I can easily tell you what it has to do with us. It's the same way, the way we need to realize who we are and start allowing the system to dictate who we are. See, the difference between us and the Aborigines of Australia is that the Aborigines of Australia are not allowing the reptilians over there to dictate who they are. But since they're giving out money, now they want to play political games with identity. That's what them reptilians are. And it's ridiculous. Come on. Anybody with any knowledge of history, anybody with any sense, anybody with any knowledge of politics, anybody with any good sense and any that's seasoned in history, seasoned in politics in any way can see the game that's being played in Australia. It was already played over here. It was played over here a long time ago. So these white devils over here kicking back, well, we ain't got to worry about it. You know, you do, because the awakening is happening over here in America, you white reptilian. Yeah, you Mongoloid Native Americans, you better wake up, motherfuckers, because we're here. We're waking up to who we are. I am an American Aborigine. I am not an African American. I am not a black American. I am not a colored. I am not a Negro. I am Cherokee and Choctaw. I am an American Aboriginal, indigenous American Aborigine. That's who I am. And that's who every so-called black American who has roots in this country going all the way to so-called slavery and beyond, that's who you are. You are an American Aborigine. You feel me? We just got to know that. I know that. You just got to know that. When I say we got to know that, what I mean by we is that how can I know who you are if you don't know who you are? I know who I am, but I can't help you if you don't know who you are. You can't help me if you don't know who you are. You feel me? And this is what we got to wake up to, people. We got to wake up to the fact of who we are. Not allowing the white devil, not allowing the system to dictate our true identity. You feel me? Not allowing their games, their political games, not allowing their laws that they pass. These motherfuckers pass laws despite what we think and feel. Look what they just did. The majority of the people in this country in America did not want Mr. Kavanaugh as a Supreme Court judge. Then this man got a history of no respect for women. Even as a young man, he didn't respect women. And yet the Republicans put him in office. So I'm trying to tell you, these white devils don't give a damn about us. The white supremacy of the 18th, 16th, and 17th, and 15th century, that racism is still sitting amongst a lot of white people in this country, especially when you got more than 30%, between 30 and 40% of the people still supporting Mr. Trump as president. That lets you know white supremacy is still strong here in America. So we cannot focus on these white devils about what they think and how they feel. We got to do what we know is real. And the number one thing we got to start with is our identity. Knowing who you are. Look what they're doing right now. Trying to call in Mexicans immigrants. Really? 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 Mexicans have been here. A lot of them have been here way before a lot of these so-called white people who are here. You got generations of white people who are here who came here in the 18 and 1700s. You got Mexicans go way back. They go back further than that. Come on. And then if you want to talk about the establishment of Mexico, which we know was not established until around the 1700s, we can go there. Their bloodline and their culture still goes beyond that. But yet we sit there and we let these reptilians tell us, and who is who. We got too many house Negroes in America. We got too many, way too many. Malcolm X knew that in his time, and it still applies today. We got too many traitorous house Negroes in America. And where are they sitting? In politics. Where they're sitting? In Hollywood. Where they're sitting? In professional, in professional athletic professions. And that's where they are sitting. They're entrepreneurs. The white devil know where to put house Negroes. He know where to put house Negroes because them house Negroes are going to do his bidding. It's going to take us waking up, people. Waking up and embracing our true identity, not allowing the system to tell us a damn thing. Fuck the white system. You feel me? Fuck the white man's system. Him and his family along with it. Because when it comes down to the raw and uncut, you cannot depend on the system to tell you who you are. You cannot depend on the system to tell you your history and your culture. Because the system will rob you of your identity, rob you of your culture and your history, and then rewrite it and give it to somebody else. That's what genocide is. And that's what has happened over here. It's happened over here with the original Americans, the original indigenous Americans, not Native Americans. Native Americans know who they are. Cracking me up, you got some of these little young Native Americans today talking about slavery. I would love for them to tell me what Mongoloid tribe ended up in slavery. Show me. I ain't read no Comanche, the Apache. They were not enslaved. The people that were enslaved were the woodland aboriginals. The Native Americans, the white men made deals with them. Matter of fact, even gave them positions and even allowed some of these Native Americans to take on Aboriginal identity. As long as they were going to get paid, they did it. Yes, I truly believe you got some of these so-called people who are claiming to be Cherokee, claiming to be Choctaw, claiming to be Blackfoot Indian, claiming to be Washita, claiming to be Natchez and Caddo, and they're not. They're actually Native Americans that have taken on a cultural identity that's not theirs, a.k.a. motherfucking culture vultures. Culture vultures, people. That's exactly what them devils are. Culture vultures. You've had people who play Indians on television. Weren't Indians at all. Everybody, it was real prevalent in Hollywood that he had white people. When I say white people, I'm talking about Italians, Portuguese, playing Indians. And even some straight out just regular English white people with tans playing Indians. Culture vultures, people. With all the indigenous people in this country, you're going to go get a white man to play an Indian? Matter of fact, the last person who did it was Johnny Depp. Yeah, the person who plays on Pirates of the Caribbean, yeah, that motherfucker played an Indian. He played an Indian, yes. And that so-called remake of what was that? The remake of some cowboy movie or whatever that used to come on back years ago. You know, mask motherfucker, whatever. He's still, everybody know Johnny Depp is not a damn Indian. No, he's not. He's another, if he got some Indian in him, he's one of those same white people who's claiming Indian because they got one family member, one motherfucker, one indigenous motherfucker in your family, and everybody else around them connected to them is white, and you want to claim it. Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that lame. Get out of here with that. I don't think so. My goodness. Let me go back to my main point again, okay? Like I say, the podcast topic is culture vultures, who are the original American Aborigines. And I'm going to tell you who the original Aborigines are. I'm going to read it to you right now. I read it last week. I'm going to read it this week. I'm going to do it again, people. I'm going to go over it again because maybe some of y'all forgot, okay? I'm reading this from an encyclopedic book, okay? I'm going to the name of this book. Let me go back up here and read this again. From the geography of Harriet Beecher, okay, published by Corey and Fairbanks in 1883. Okay, there you go. So let me read this, all right? It says, before white people came over to America, let me make sure, let me blow this up a little bit, make sure I read, because I don't want to miss none of this, okay? Here we go, right here. Before white people came over to America, it had many tribes of people in it. Some of these tribes still remain in the United States and in the countries north of it and South America. These form what are called the American race. They have a copper-colored skin, long black hair, small dark eyes, and very thick lips and broad noses. That don't sound like white Native Americans to me. Let me just read it again, the description again. This is in a 1833 geography book, encyclopedic geography book, and you can go find it yourself. Harriet Beecher, 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 Harriet Beecher, published by Corey and Fairbanks in 1833. Okay? And it says again, before white people came over to America, it had many tribes of people in it. Some of these tribes still remain in the United States. Yes, we do. Black people, so-called black people, we're still here. And in the countries north of it and in South America, these form what are called the American races. They have a copper-colored skin, long black hair, And now, mind you, not everybody had long hair, so this white man put that in there. Small, dark eyes, and very thick lips and broad noses. Now, I'm pretty sure why he also said long black hair, because it was traditional. Again, it was very customary, traditional for indigenous tribes to wear long hair. Yes, our copper-colored ancestors wore braids. What they call cornrows for a reason, people. Research that term, cornrows. Corn is not native to Africa. Corn is what? Native to America. The braiding style that our indigenous people did was called cornrows. Don't think that word and that label and that identification, that word cornrow is specific for a reason. It's stated that way and labeled that way for a reason. Why? Number one, the style of braiding. That's why it's called cornrow. Secondly, cornrow. Why? Because it looked like rows of corn in your hair. Why? Because corn is what? Only native to America. Our people invented corn rolling. I didn't say our people invented braiding. I said cornrows, people. Research it. Anybody who think I'm wrong, research what I'm saying. Come on my show. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. You can chime in at 857-232-0155. Again, that is 857-232-0155. And don't forget the conference key to get to the conference. Don't sit with me live here on the Black Village, on the air live. 947595. Again, the conference code is 947595. You can chime in. I talk to anybody who's willing to talk like an intelligent individual. You feel me? So, on that note, people, again, the original people, the original Americans were a copper-colored people, according to the 1828 Webster's Dictionary. That's what it says, that the original. So, what's up with these people on these reservations today? Why they don't look copper-colored? They call themselves red. That's what they call themselves. They call themselves red. Let me go to another history. I got another history book right here, people. I want to read to you. One of my favorite historians that I like to read from, even though he's a white man of the 1830s. This right here was called The American Nations that I'm going to read to you, okay? This is taken from, let me go over here. Give me a minute and go on cross. Here it is right here, okay? This is taken from a book that was written by Constantine Samuel Raffenbois. Again, the man who wrote this book in 1836. This book was written in 1836. It's called American Nations Volume 1. American Nations Volume 1. You can go find that on the internet. You can download it, okay? So you can download it via PDF file. Now, Constantine Raffenbois was an archaeologist, a historian, an anthropologist. He was a very educated man, okay, for his time and at his time. And but he was not fully accepted by the European academic world because he was too straightforward, too honest, and too raw and uncut. Okay? But let me just read this part where he talks about the description of the indigenous people. Now, mind you, he covers some broad territory, and he's also giving his perception of what he's seen in 1836. By 1836, people, you had a lot of white people who had blended in with a lot of the tribes. You had a lot of white people who had made themselves chiefs of tribes by 1836. Mind you, prior to 1836, again, there was not a white face in this country. Prior to 1836, prior to the 18th century, prior to the 17th century, there was not a white face in this country. Prior to the 16th century. You feel me? And I'm going to tell you, specifically in the 16th century and the 17th century, you didn't have no white people, the chiefs of any indigenous tribes. But by the time 1836 came around, you got to remember, between the 1700s and the 1800s, you had hundreds of treaties, hundreds. And you got to remember, the white man created his own so-called civilized tribe, the so-called 5 civilized tribes, which, how in the hell does that make sense? You had over 700. I'm saying over 700, according to Susan Steppens' book, who's the professor at New York University. Her name is Susan Steppens. Her book, which is titled Native Americans of North America. Her research says that there were more than 500 nations here. She says there were over 700 nations and tribes in this country. But how you take only 5 and make them the pillar of all indigenous people? Well, I'm going to tell you how. Because the white man took and placed his chiefs in charge of these tribes. And you might say, well, the Cherokee was a part of that. I want you to know, when the white devil did this, it literally split those tribes in half. Many of the tribes split. The Cherokee split. The Seminoles split. A lot of them, when I say split, I mean they broke into 2 tribes, into 2 nations, because they did not agree with making any treaties with the white devil. But let me read this right quick, okay? This is the book. Like I said, this book is titled The American Nations, Volume 1 by Constantine Samuel Raffenbois in 1836. And it goes like this. There were few, if any, let me go above. Let me go a little bit further up. Okay. It is certain that America contained anciently, as even now, a crowd of distinct nations and tribes, some of which were quite civilized, perhaps as much as the Spaniards led by Columbus. The others more barbarous, but not entirely savage. There were but few, if any, real savages in America. Dwelling in the woods without social ties, most of them were wandering tribes of fishermen or hunters. They were formerly in America, as now, tribes of all complexions as elsewhere: yellowish, olive, coppery, tawny, red and brown, and or white, even blackened or Negro-like. Did you hear? He said Negro-like. Now listen to this again. He says yellowish, meaning you had light-skinned Indians. Yellowish. You got them today. Okay. He says olive. Olive. That means an olive. You see an olive as an olive looks dark. An olive look. He ain't talking about a green olive. All right. He said olive. Coppery. There you go. That copper. He said coppery. Tawny. Tawny again. Tawny and coppery is pretty. Not to say copper comes in many different shades. Tawny is another shade of copper. And then he says red and brown. Reddened. Brown. That's a brownish red. A cinnamon red. A cinnamon brown. That's what a red and brown is. And then he says incarnate or white. Incarnate or white. Now that part right there, I can't accept. Because indigenous people called the white man pale face for a reason. Why? Because they didn't see any pale faces in their country. For him to say there were white people here, or Indians that look white, he had to explain to me, why was the white man called paleface? I'm going to tell you why. Because there was no white people in America prior to European colonization. So by 1836, I can see him saying there were some white-looking Indians here. You had a lot of $5 Indians, which are white Indians, meaning white people who had a grandmother or a great-grandmother who was Indian, who his grandfather raped and made his wife, and then they want to pass themselves off as Indians. But look at it. The last thing says, and even blackened or Negro-like Indians. He said Negro-like. Now, I don't know why he says that, but he says Negro-like. Obviously, he's looking at the fact that these Indians are not Negroes to him. They're not Africans. They're not Africans. He says Negro-like. Then look, it continues. He says tall and dwarf men from 8 to 4 feet in size, and called giants and pygmies. Men with various frames, skulls, features, all of sorts found in the Eastern Hemisphere. The Americans had long before Columbus. He said, listen to this. He said the Americans had long before Columbus large cities, some built of stone, bricks, or wood, with walls, ditches, temples, palaces, some of which were immense in size and population. Look, look, there you go right there, people. Our people was already here. You hear me? Our people were already here. Let me cut this for a minute, okay? We got to learn to wake up, people. It's time for us to wake up and realize who we are. We are the indigenous American Aborigines. We are not no African Americans. We're not Black Americans. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me let this brother right here tell you best right here. Go ahead, the late, great brother Dick Gregory. Go, give it to him, brother.
What do you mean by America is my mama?
I don't know nothing else. I don't know nothing else. I wasn't eating chitlins when I was in Africa. I wasn't eating watermelon when I was in Africa. Huh? I wasn't wearing zoot suits when I was in Africa. I wasn't getting my hair cut when I was in Africa. This bitch is my mama. This bitch is my mama. Bitch is my mama. And yours too. Except I know it's mine. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine.
There you go right there. Brother Dick Gregory dropping it raw and uncut. You feel me? Brother, the late, great brother Dick Gregory dropping it raw and uncut. He says, this bitch is my mama. In other words, I'm from America. I'm not from America. He said, I wasn't eating watermelon in Africa. Huh? We got to realize who we are, people. One way we're going to realize who we are is listening to our family, talking to your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, and doing your own research, your paper trail research. Do your research while you can, because these white devils are changing paperwork. They're working hard to change things. These are paranoid reptilians, raw and uncut. You feel me? So, on that note, it's getting late. I didn't went past my hour, but, you know, I do that sometime. You feel me? I do that. And I also had, matter of fact, I wanted to get on these Pan-African Negroes. Man, let me play this right quick. I'm going to let you guys hear this right quick. I'm going to let you hear this right quick, and I shall return.
There is an African-American attitude that does not accept the legitimacy of the term Black Indians. All people of African heritage are African. So that the Afrocentric position argues that Black Indians are not Indians, but are in fact African people. So individuals of dual heritage are often caught between white stereotypes about pure blood, what Indians should look like. And on the other side is the Afrocentric position that says that you are not Indian, you are Africans pretending to be something you are not. And, you know, in several instances, this is difficult for individuals. I mean, you know, in many different ways, it places people in positions where they have to negotiate their identity, caught between two extremes, two groups that deny them legitimacy and a place within either community, either the African American community or the Native American community.
Black History Month, you find
ridiculous. Why? You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, well, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man.
What do you think, Morgan? Is this political correctness gone too far?
Yeah. I mean, we have a tendency to do that anyway. I mean, you get politically correct. Stuff happens that you don't want to happen. I all of a sudden became an African. Political correctness, African American. I'm not African. An American. I'm not African. An American.
There you go, people. You heard it. That was Brother Morgan Freeman. You also heard that one brother break down the aspects of what these Pan-African agents are doing. What these Pan-African, they want to say we're African no matter what. That's the Pan-African philosophy. Culture vultures, people. They're culture vultures. Why I say they culture vultures? Well, no, they're not stealing our indigenous identity. They're robbing us of our indigenous identity and making us them. And I want you to know these white devils have educated a lot of these African Negroes. They've educated them. paid for their education. A lot of them have gotten their education in England, came over here and finished their education over here. Then they pose themselves as African conscious leaders. They're a bunch of agents. They're a bunch of Pan-African agents. And I want you to know, they even got Africans. Now, mind you, some of them are Caribbean agents, Pan-African agents. Some of them are so-called American. They're indigenous Negroes that don't give a fuck because they've sold out to the white devil. And the only thing they care about is what they believe. And they want to so harshly believe in this. They don't care what their grandmama say. They don't care what their mama say. They don't care what their grandfathers say. They don't give a damn, because you know what they say? Well, we all from Africa, and everybody came, all life came from Africa anyway, so we're all African. But you're not selling that to the Chinese, though. I don't see you selling that Pan-African shit to the Japanese or the Chinese or the Vietnamese or the Italian or the Portuguese. They so harshly sell it to us. Who is us? Those of us who the system called Negro and black and now African American. That's who they so hardly work at selling this shit to. That's why I tell you, it's bullshit, people. They're agents. They're culture vultures. The Pan-African, all of them. They know who they are. Yeah, Umar. Dr. Johnson Umar. Dr. Umar John. He's an agent. He's an agent of the system. Just like it was found out that Al Sharpton was a sellout agent. Huh? Alex Haley was a sellout agent. They're everywhere. House Negro sellout agents are everywhere. So we have to educate ourselves. We have to clean out our house, people. We have to teach our children not to be sellout agents. We have to teach our children to care about who they are, to know who they are. Not listen to the system to dictate who you are. Not let the system tell you who you are. Listen to your grandmother, your mother, your great-grandmother, your grandfather, your great-grandfather. This is what we have to do, people. You feel me? This is what we must do. Huh? Let me let little brother, look, get at him.
African just want to go home. Nigga from here want to take his shit over. African just want to go home. Nigga from here want to take his shit over.
There you go, people. That's real and uncut. African want to go home. See, if you're African, take your ass to Africa. That's a huge-ass continent, many places you can go. I'm at home. America, Turtle Island is my home. You feel me, people? And we need, for you to know that, you have to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you don't know that. You don't know that you are an indigenous Aborigine. No, you don't know that. But if you know who you are, then you can actually say that. That means the white devil can do nothing to change your mind because you know who you are. There's nothing the white devil can do. There's nothing the white devil can say. There's nothing nothing, because you know who you are. And that's why I encourage all you people to do your own family research. Don't trust no DNA crap, all that entertainment bull crap. Do your own paper trail. Do your own historical investigative research on your own family. A matter of fact, thinking about it before I go, let me say, I got something I want to share, something else I want to share with you guys that I discovered. It's called mongabay.com. Mongabay, M-O-N-G-A, Bay. M-O-N-G-A-B-A-Y, mongabay.com. And it's a place where you can see the most common names, the most common last names of indigenous people. Okay? And this is a long list. I'm going to have to come back to this on a part 2. But let me read this right quick, okay? So anybody can go find this. It's under www.namesmongabay.com. Names, N-A-M-E-S .MONGABAY.com. Namesmongabay.com. And it says the most common last names for American Indians, okay, and Alaskan Natives in the U.S. Now, the following is a list of the most common surnames for people who self-identify as American Indians. Okay, now look at these names. Last name Smith, Johnson, Begay, Yazzie, Locklear, Jones, Williams, Brown, Davis, Wilson, Thomas, Thompson, Jackson, Miller, Mark. These are names of indigenous people. These are last names of indigenous. Because I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of these names are the last names of so-called black people. Anderson, Taylor, Lewis, James, Hunt, Lee, Martin. These are last names of indigenous people. These are common last names of indigenous people. So most likely, if your name fall under this category, that's a start right there to start to research who you are and trace that name, because it's a common name that indigenous people called themselves. Let me go on down some more. I mean, the list is really long. I'm not going to have time to go through the whole list of last names. Scott, Benali, Martinez, Garcia, Clark, Anderson, Harris, Walker, Hill, Mitchell, Phillips, Baker, Young, Adams. There you go. I mean, I would encourage you to go check out this list. It's a list of common indigenous last names. And so I want to end on that note. I got to go, people. I will be back. I would definitely, I know I talked a whole lot. I want to share a little bit more. I have more audio casts I want to play. But, I can't sit here all day long and do this. I got to go. I got things to do. You feel me? So on that note, as I always say, I got to go. And you can always join me here on the Black Village every Sunday, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut from 3 to 4. Pacific Standard Time, people. This is JC, aka Afro Black, your host with the most, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut here on the Black Village. And I gotta go. I will definitely be back. I will definitely be indigenously back, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut as I always do. And I invite everybody and all to come and join me, to call in. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. You can chime in at any time during the live session. 857-232-0155. Again, that is 857-232-0155 and conference code 947595. And yes, I invite Christians, Muslims, Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, all you people. You got something to say? Just make sure you come correct. And if you're concerned about me cutting you off the air, yes, if you cuss me out, if you threaten me, if you talk like an immature little boy with no intelligence, I will mute you. Yes, I will. I got the power to do that. Yes, I do. It's my show. But if you come correct, if you come like an adult, if you talk like you got some maturity and some intelligence, we'll have a good discussion. And believe me, I will give you the same respect. I'm not going to cuss you out. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to call you any names. But I definitely don't expect it to have it be done to me. Or I will mute you and boot you from my show. So that's why I'm pretty sure I don't get a lot of people to call into my show, because they can't come and act how they want to act. No, you can't come on my show acting like a spoiled little immature, unintelligent brat. No, you can't. So on that note, people, I got to go. I got to do what I got to do. You feel me? And that's dropping nothing but the raw and uncut. So I will be back next Indigenous Sunday to do as I always do and share as I always share, the raw and uncut, with the indigenous and those who are not indigenous out there, those who are seeking and those who are not seeking. My job is just to give you the raw and uncut. And that's what I'm always do. And that's what I will continue to do until I can't do it no more. So on that note, I got to go. And as I always say, may the great mother bring us together under the wings of her love and her peace. And as always, I love chicken. So I'm going to always tell you, love, peace, and chicken grease. I got to go, people. So I'm outie. See ya. See ya.
Aboriginal people. 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 Aboriginal people.
No matter where you go, whatever every country we in there. Most of us did not come on slave ships, we've been here. Indian just means amalgamated more. The U.S. tried to wipe us out in 3 seminal wars. For each Aboriginal, 7 troops died. 90% of Indians were reclassified as Negroes. We fought European foes. Africa's great, but we don't look under our nose. Or now here's the Old Man River, or the Massey sequel, knock out the Mississippi. We're the Yamasee people and others here like the Washita, the Chocos in Colombia, Dadientos in Panama, the Garifunas and more. We're prisoners of war. Our titles, nationalities, and birthrights ignored. We got a huge missing gap in our past and been divided into race or some type of caste. Everyone else has a language, where's mine? Cause ours is long gone like your grandpa's hairline.
Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people.